Hi, I'm Kavneet Singh. You're listening to Catholic versus Sikh.
Tell the listeners, if you would, a little bit about yourself, just a bit of background, who you are, what you believe, and how you came to believe it.
So I'm 40 years old. I'm a Sikh. I was born in a Sikh family as well, and very happy, and content following the Sikh religion.
What was your first experience as a child? Can you talk a little bit about your earliest memories?
Sure, yes. I mean, Sikhism is really about experiencing. So it's not simply just having faith, it's really about the experience. So when I look at my childhood, it was really a gradual process for me getting that understanding of religion and of Sikhism, and it still is an ongoing process. So, really, yes, it started from my parents introducing the Sikh religion to me. They were practicing Sikhs, and I grew up having our religious scriptures. It's actually called the Guru Granth Sahib Ji, which is our living guru in the form of scriptures in the house I grew up in. And so, they practiced and prayed. We had an actual room which was dedicated for praying. And so, I grew up with that. Another thing that's quite good growing up was where I learned a lot was going to Sikh camps. So a lot of the local temples, Sikh temples, during the summer period would hold sort of kids camps. And they would, have, general sports activities and fun activities, but also they would also have, teach you about the Sikh religion. I mean, one of the things is with the Sikh religion is, being originated from India, from Punjab region, all the texts are in Gurmukhi, which is similar to Punjabi. And so for me, I was born in England. So my first language was English, even though my mother tongue is Punjabi. I speak both languages, but I really am more comfortable in English. So for me, it was quite difficult to understand the scriptures properly. I couldn't just simply like I read a book, an English book, but with my religious text, it was quite difficult to understand. So really, initially, it was just learning the religious texts and learning the prayers, but we didn't really know the meaning. And the meaning really came as I grew up.
Like you said, the holy texts weren't completely accessible to you and all that, but there's a sort of atmosphere of religion. There must have been a time at or just after the age of reason where you had to come to a decision. Am I going to believe this sincerely in my heart, or am I only going to go through the motions? So what was that like for you?
Yeah, I think it was really quite a slow process for me. It was like quite gradual. And I would say maybe a pivotal moment would be about 4 years ago. I really started questioning what life was really about. As we grow up, this sort of system of education just teaches you about making money, getting a car, getting a mortgage, having a family. And, about 3-4 years ago, I came to the point in my life where I did all that. And suddenly I'm like, where do we go? So that's when I started questioning. And I'm like, well, actually, that is what we're taught. And then I started really going into our guru, our religious scriptures, and really going more deeper into it. And around that time, around 3 years ago, there was, I don't know if you know them, there was an YouTube channel called Basics of Sikhi, what the Sikh faith is about, and answered a lot of those questions that I had in my mind, and really explained our religious scriptures and what our guru is saying in English, in simple form. And that really did it for me. It answered all my questions. And then really, I think, everything just kept moving more closer towards religion, and actually things started making a lot more sense. But it's still ongoing. I mean, being a Sikh, one thing is that you just can never say enough. It's all about learning constantly. The minute that we say, hey, I know everything, that's the minute ego kicks in, and that stops you from learning. But again, that's all from our guru, what our guru teaches us. So our Guru Granth Sahib Ji, again, the religious scriptures, our living guru, it takes you from darkness to light. So, what we thought was life, actually wasn't. When I look back and look at, say, my actions, my direction in life, it was okay. I was following what the world was doing, but really, I'd say I'm getting closer. I'd say I'm getting out of that, getting more closer to the light, and feel more free, more relaxed,
liberated,
a lot more liberated. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, even our parents, to a certain extent, they are technically brainwashed to following the way that, the governments want to run the economy. We just follow that, right? And unless we have that knowledge, unless we're lucky enough to get that knowledge in that direction, it's very difficult to break away from that. I mean, the Sikh faith doesn't say don't live in the world. The Sikh faith says live in the world, live in that world. So, for example, it gives you a very interesting concept of the lotus flower. So, basically, it's not like, I mean, I know some religions, what they say that, we should actually discard the world and go up in the mountains and, meditate and that's it, But the Sikh religion is really different. It's an extremely practical religion. It expects you to have a family, live the life, live amongst each other, but basically be like the lotus flower. So how the qualities of a lotus flower are that it lives in water where a lot of the sort of dirty, muddy region is. But it never, ever allows the dirt to stick to that lotus flower. So you're constantly looking up towards God. So keeping God central to your life, living within, say, Maya, the world, the illusion, living within that world, but not allowing all that dirt to stick to you, right? So that lotus flower, you'll never see a dirty lotus flower. And at the same time, it never will drown in that water. It'll always be above the water. So keeping your head above, keeping God central, and living life.
We are told to be in the world, but not of the world. So it's a similar idea. And we need to engage with the world and help transform the world, really. But I read about Sikhism that there is no priesthood, and it's actually forbidden to have a priesthood. And it seems interesting because you mentioned family life, and it would seem that if you're not going to marry God, as our priests and our religious do in the Catholic faith, if you're not going to have that vocation, that it seems the only remaining vocation would be marriage or unmarried life. How is unmarried life seen?
I mean, when I said, be married, I mean, there's no strict rule. Sikhism is about having 100% freedom. If you look at all our priests, and all the religious people that are there in the Sikh temples, they most of them are married. Some of them are not married. No big deal.
Oh, so you're saying that there are priests?
Yeah, I mean, priests meaning we have what they call them granthis. So in each Sikh Gurdwara, in each Sikh temple, we have what you call a granthi. A granthi is similar to a priest in that that granthi is there to read our Guru's scriptures. It doesn't mean that nobody else can read the scriptures. It's a bit like having a school. You go there to learn. You go there to enlighten your soul, take yourself from darkness to light. If you don't have somebody like an expert that is in that field to help you, then it can get quite difficult to get the correct direction.
One common question that I'll ask my guests, no matter what worldview they hold, is about the best case scenario and the worst case scenario, and the difference between the best case scenario and the worst case scenario after death.
Yeah. So what we believe in is that if you connect with God, if you become one with God while you're on earth, then you will merge back in with God. So your soul will merge back into God and will break away from the cycle of birth and death. So that's the best scenario, right? If you don't, then basically you're going to go in a cycle of birth and death, and there's millions and millions of cycles, right? You've got insects, you've got animals, you've got bacteria, anything with a life form. You could be one of those in the future. Depending on your actions, that's what you're going to become. You're going to go through that whole life cycle, and then based on your actions, you may come back into a human to try again.
What is the worst case scenario? Could you remain lost in the oblivion of low-level life form forever?
Probably not forever, right? There's got to come an end to it, because the only thing that can last forever is God. You're always given another chance.
So everyone ends up in heaven, basically.
Yes, because everything came from God. Everything has to go back into God, right? So yes, definitely. But what our Guru tells us, it's based on your actions. It's based on you merging with God and your actions. So if your actions are such that you do connect with God and you do merge with God, then for sure you're going to be one with God. And that cycle of birth and death will end. Whether that will happen for everyone, again, the seed you sow is what you reap.
There is a major difference between scenario 1, where everyone does in fact end up eventually with God, and scenario 2, where that's not the case.
I think the way I look at it is, if we all came from the one, then it's very possible that everything can go back to the one, right? Because we are all from the one. If God decides that, things are going to carry on forever, then they will. So really, it's up to God. We wouldn't know the answer to that.
If no matter what we do and no matter what we choose, we will end up with God, that seriously undermines morality, because if I'm talking to you and you're striving to unite with God quickly, and I say, well, I'm going to go the other way, I'm going to go the slow route, I'm going to go delve into evil, I'm going to cause harm to others and take advantage of others and get physical pleasure at the expense of others during every lifetime that I can, just to explore. And I'll see you in heaven. I'll see you in heaven later. don't worry about it. I'm stirring things up. I'm being a bad boy, but it's all theater and we're going to see each other in heaven one day. Do you not see how that undermines all of morality?
Oh, definitely. I mean, our Sikh religion definitely doesn't tell you that. So what the Sikh religion says is that the seed you sow is what you reap. There are consequences to every action, good or bad. So if you follow Sikh religion, that concept doesn't exist that, I can just get away with it and just go in the slow lane and, I'll see you there. No, that definitely wouldn't work.
So what it seems like you're saying is that there are definitely permanent, lasting consequences to going in the opposite direction, away from God.
Yeah, based on our scriptures, if somebody's actions are constantly negative, right, then yes, he's going to constantly be coming back and he's going to do the same thing again.
What about unity? What about religious unity? Is it important to you that people come to the fullness of religious truth? Or are you happy having Buddhists, Muslims, Jews, Hindus, Satanists, and everyone else going their own path?
What Sikhism says is it respects all religions. I'll give you a couple of examples. So we have 10 physical gurus. So our religion was formed by the first guru, Guru Nanak Dev Ji, in 1469. Our fifth guru was martyred by the Mughal empires back then for not converting into Islam. His son, Guru Har Gobind Ji, the sixth guru, then started up an army to protect, for self-defense. And even though his father was killed by a Mughal ruler, he didn't hate all Muslims. He didn't hate Islam. He actually built a mosque for some really poor Muslims living within his city. He saw they were praying on the street, and he's like, how come we don't have a temple? And they said, well, we're too poor. So he built them a mosque. I'll give you another example. Going back to the first guru, living in India, it was a lot of Hindus there. And they tried to put a religious thread. They believe in these religious threads that are sort of blessed by their priests. And he actually rejected the thread in a nice way. He said, look, I don't want that thread because this thread that you're trying to put on my hand, it can be broken. It could be burned. Give me a religious thread that is full of compassion. Give me a thread that is full of honesty, a religious thread that can never be broken. And, the Hindu Pandit looked at him and said, I can't give you that. And he's like, well, I don't want it then. So what he was trying to do there was he was trying to break them away from their superstitions. But if you look at our ninth guru, Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji, he gave his head for the Hindu faith. The Hindus were being converted from all directions in India into Islam. And he gave his head for the Hindu faith. Even though the first guru rejected the thread, but he gave his head for the freedom of another religion. It's amazing. What do you say to that?
There are plenty of stories of martyrdom, I think, in all religions, certainly in Catholicism, of people giving their lives for those of other faiths or of no faith. But do you believe that your religion is the best religion, or is it just one of many paths? I happen to believe that my religion is the fullness of religious truth. Do you feel the same way about Sikhism?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, with Sikhism, we believe our Guru Granth Sahib Ji is everything for us. It was true from the beginning. It was true throughout the ages. It's true now, and it will always be true in the future. So it's timeless, and it's the guru for the world. So we have actual religious text from other religions. So our gurus, when they traveled the world, they met a lot of sort of religious Hindus, religious Islamists, and they recognized that there were certain special individuals who spoke that truth. So when they did, they took those words and they put them into our Guru Granth Sahib Ji. So it's absolutely amazing because the truth is not just in one person, it's in everywhere, right? So if you're following Christianity and you're getting that enlightenment and you're connecting with God, it's going to be shown in your actions, and you can learn from each other in a way and direct each other in the right direction. So
who is Jesus for you historically and mystically and spiritually?
Well, I mean, Jesus isn't mentioned in our scriptures. I don't really know a lot about Christianity. I mean, I do read a little bit here and there. I meet, just people in general, like friends and over the years that follow different religions. But really, I haven't gone deep into it. Mainly because my Guru Granth Sahib Ji gives me all the information and I experience it. I experience that it works. It genuinely works. So I've never felt the need to sort of go looking elsewhere. But if, I have no issues learning about other religions. I think it's very interesting.
Do you in Sikhism have avatars? Because Jesus is seen by the Hindus as an avatar of God.
The way we see things is, it's quite different to the Hindu religion. I mean, Hindu religion is quite vast, so it's not really just one set of scriptures or rules. But I mean, we definitely don't do idol worshipping. But our religion, it was started from the first guru, 1469. We have 10 physical gurus that came down in human form. And for us, they were God on earth, but they aren't God. So, for example, like you have the sun and you have the moon, and how the moon reflects the light onto the earth. So it's a similar thing. Our gurus, our physical gurus, are a reflection of God. All the actual religious scriptures, they actually came from God. And that's why they're in the Guru Granth Sahib Ji. So we treat our Guru Granth Sahib Ji with the utmost respect. For example, when we go to the Sikh temple, we bow our head down in front of the Guru Granth Sahib to just give total respect. But we're not bowing down to a book. We're bowing down to God's words, the knowledge, the words that are contained in that, right? They call it Shabad Guru. So basically, in a way, it's like the words of God is our Guru, yeah, and that's what gives us our direction, takes us out from darkness to light.
We have saints in the Catholic Church, as everyone knows. We can kiss the statue or the icon, just like a soldier that's away in battle might kiss a picture of his mother or of his wife, knowing full well that little tattered picture is not the person, it's just a representation of the person. And the love that they're showing towards that image is not for the physical image itself, obviously. I'm sure that's exactly what's going on with your reverence for your gurus, all of them.
I think there might be a bit of a fundamental difference, because our gurus always inspired us to not follow that physical image. For example, we have no paintings of our gurus. They don't exist. And I think there's a reason for that. And also, we definitely don't make statues of our gurus, because it's not the physical gurus that we worship at all. It's not their faces or their body that we worship. It's the words of God.
It's interesting that you talk about the Word of God, because one reason that we have icons and that we have statues and that the Catholic Church is comfortable with what others regard as idolatry, and idolatry is forbidden for us. But the reason that we're comfortable with what people think of as idolatry is because of the incarnation. The Word of God was made flesh. He actually took on, the ineffable God became man. And so that ushered in a new economy of images, which I think is unique in all of the world religions. For example, Islam and Judaism are two monotheistic religions, but they're horrified by what's going on in the Catholic Church because of the ultimate transcendence of God. We have a God who's immanent and transcendent, and not only that, he's a Trinity, and the second person incarnated took on flesh. So it's a completely different ballgame, and that has implications for everything. When I go to heaven, I will have a physical body. When I walk around on this planet, I treat my physical body as just as real as my eternal soul. It's not as perfect as my soul. It's not the primary aspect of who I am, but it's essential to who I am, body and soul. And so when I go to heaven, I will see God Almighty in the flesh, incarnate, because he did not disincarnate when he ascended into heaven after his death, burial, and resurrection. But there is no confusion. There's only one God, and we only worship God. And much like what you were saying about your religion, everyone is pointing to God, and we honor those who point to God, and those who have heroic virtue and who give their lives to God with devotion and love. They're the heroes that we reverence the most, especially the Mother of God, Mary.
To each their own, it works for your religion. If it helps you to connect, that's a key. That's a key thing that we believe in. Does it help you connect to God? For example, just the sort of basic concept that we're taught is that, we are born with 10 doors, okay? 9 of those doors are physical and 1 is hidden for the spiritual side. So I'll just give you a basic understanding. So that you have 10 doors, 9 doors. For example, you have 2 eyes, you have 2 ears, 2 nostrils, a mouth, and 2 down below. Those are the 9 doors that we have to experience this world. But there's 1 door, which is the 10th door, which is hidden, which is actually within our mind. So when we close our eyes and we sort of go within, that is our 10th door. And, meditation, being grateful to God, meditating on God's name, these type of actions are really, really important to connect with God. So, our eyes are there to sort of see, okay, the physical sort of world, what was created. But the world is a temporary place. It's not something which is permanent. But whereas our mind is basically part of our soul, which is eternal and never dies. And that's why there's the three fundamental principles. One is the spiritual side. The other one is, helping others. And, we treat our body as we need it. So for example, if we need a body which is stronger because we're lifting a lot of things around, then fine, go weight training and get that shape and get on with it. But, we don't believe in doing something to our body that just is there for show. There's got to be a practical reason and a positive reason for that. So definitely, taking care of your body is important, definitely, because it's carrying your soul, right? So we have to give our body the correct food. We have to clean our body, right? We have to clean our clothes that we wear on our body. But what happens is what it teaches us in our scriptures is what happens when your mind gets dirty. How do you clean that? You can't clean that with soap or water. So we close our eyes and we meditate to God's name, and we read those scriptures and we connect. And that is how you wash your mind, and it will make the whole world better as well. Right? So, okay, if you think about this, we believe that, okay, our soul comes from God. So when our soul very first time was, put on earth or put in the world or the universe by God, it was pure. But as obviously it went through its life, it's picking up karma. So what we're told by our guru is that anything that is bad in us is from me, right? Any bad actions, anything bad that is in me is from me. But anything good is from you, because it can't be any other way. So what we believe is that when we bow our head down to the Guru Granth Sahib Ji, what we should be doing, what we're trying to do, is we're trying to give our mind and our head to the Guru. So what we're trying to do is trying to actually kill our own mind, practically. Because what happens is we keep trying to merge with God, we try to be a good person, we try to get happy. But what we find is that all those successes are temporary. They last a moment, and then it's back to square one again. The only permanent happiness is merging with God. That's the only one and only permanent happiness or contentment. So what we're trying to do while we're on earth, and that human life form is the highest life form, and that's where you can pray. As an animal, I think it's very difficult to pray to God. We've been given that brain, and we can reason and make choices. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to merge with God while we're on earth, not after, right? So if we merge with God while we're on earth, and our actions speak for that, then we are going to merge with God. Now, once we merge with God, in our scriptures, it says, well, what is that place where you reside, God? Now, we don't believe that God is somewhere up in the heavens or somewhere up there. It's all here. It's in our mind, basically. It's within, because you could be a billionaire, right? You could have all the wealth in the world, but if you haven't got God in your mind and you don't have that connection, you know that you just don't have that eternal happiness. So you're still a slave, right, to what's going on in your mind. And what happens when you connect to God is you just, all those wants, you don't even want them. You don't need them because you have everything. If you look at the very first word of our scriptures, it starts with the number 1. And the actual word is called Ik Onkar. And that basically means from the 1 through the sound Ong, the whole world was created. And so basically what it says in our scriptures is, once you do merge with God, it's total contentment.
But there's no community there.
Well, these relations that we have, wife, kids, they are part of this world. But ultimately, we're all one family. What are we? We're all part of God.
But when you're in God, you won't be a family. You'll just be God.
But technically, we are all one family because we're all from that one light, right? If you look at the Creator, our soul is the thing that is true. Our body is false.
But you and I, when we go to heaven, we won't be 2, we'll be 1.
Exactly.
If I'm right, when you and I go to heaven, you will be you and I will be I, but we'll be perfected. And we will see each other and we will be able to play and explore because there will be a new creation. That's my worldview. But when I think about your worldview, if you and I go to heaven, we won't be 2, we'll be 1.
Exactly. We will merge. There's a merging, right? You merge with God, you become part of God.
That doesn't sound as exciting.
It doesn't sound exciting because really it's like you don't need anything else. Nothing else matters, and that is it. So it's something which you can never explain. It's unexplainable.
I agree with you that God needs nothing, and if you and I are God, ultimately, at the end of the day, we don't need community. We are completely blissful, content, happy forever. There's no problem. How do you explain the evil in the world if God is all good and perfect? In philosophy, what's called the problem of evil or the problem of suffering. How did that come about from your perspective?
Well, if you think about it, if there was no good, then there wouldn't be a bad. Like, you need that comparison, right? Number one. Secondly, what we go through in life is based on our previous actions, our current actions. And my ultimate aim is to worry about myself, work on myself, not try to, obviously, help others, but by helping others, I'm helping myself. So now, why did somebody, and we look at kids getting abused. We look at, bombings in Syria, for example. How do we explain that, right? It looks like God is an absolute monster. Some people say that. Now, the thing is look at our gurus. Our gurus were the purest thing on earth for us. And the fifth guru was martyred on a hot plate. But our guru didn't feel any suffering whatsoever. He just accepted God's will. He was always one with God. And he didn't feel a single bit of pain. Same with our ninth guru. Same with all the gurus. They didn't feel a single bit of pain because they were always one with God. And what our guru tells us is when you're one with God, you'll never feel pain. Now, people go through sufferings. What our guru tells us is that suffering is a blessing from God, as well as the good things God gives you. They're all a blessing, whether good or bad. So it all comes down to acceptance of God's will. You have to accept his will.
I agree. That's what my church teaches, but there's a big difference. The difference is that my church teaches that because of our freedom to choose, because of our free will, there's a rebellion that gives rise to all these nasty consequences, all of that karma, as you would say. But you don't seem to have a notion of sin or rebellion in your creation story, do you?
No, it absolutely doesn't exist, because as a Sikh, we are to believe that whatever is in our destiny, whatever we experience in our life is within God's will. And we are to accept that with open arms.
The very first evil in creation, was it God that initiated that, or was it man or a beast or a spirit or what?
We wouldn't know, because we don't know the starting of time. Now, sometimes what happens is, something that we think is bad in our life, and then later on we find out it was a blessing in disguise. And, sometimes we need that tough love to get us back on track. So what happens sometimes, there's a line that says, Duk daru sugrokbya. What that means is the sufferings that come in our life actually become our medicine. And all those luxuries or all those comforts become obstacles.
So just to wrap up, a final thought. What would you say to anyone that's listening?
Well, what I would say is definitely get to know your real enemies in life. Our enemies are not humans or people. Real enemies are lust, anger, greed, attachment, and ego. Whenever you feel sad, whenever you feel depressed or stressed, it's going to be linked to one of those 5 vices or a collection of those 5 vices. And what's happening is that your mind is currently a slave to those 5, one of those or all of those 5 vices. And the whole world, by the way, is diseased with those 5 vices. And just try to recognize that at least, and then try to pinpoint which one of those 5 is causing me the greatest harm. And then try to do the 3 basic principles, which is, close your eyes, whatever religion you are, and just say God's name. Whatever God is to you, even if you don't know how to pray, just close your eyes and meditate the way you know. Number 1. And try to do that, even if you can do it 2 minutes a day, 1 minute a day, and slowly, gradually increase on a daily basis. That would be excellent, and you'll see a change. Number 2, go out there and help others, right? By helping others, you're helping yourself. So help others in a selfless way, whichever way it is, whether it's charity, whether, helping somebody that needs that help. And number 3, to try your best to work hard in whatever that is and put real effort into it and leave the rest to God.
If you like your worldview, if you think it's swell, if you've got some questions, ask me and I'll tell. All you got to do is ask. All you got to do is ask.